Okay, hello everybody. My name's Jameson Young. I'm sitting here with Jameson Young. Hello, Jameson Young. Today we're going to be talking about the Syrian pullout. President Trump is both taking praise and some criticism for withdrawing from Syria. He's also talking about pretty massive cutbacks in Afghanistan. So we're going to be discussing this and showing some clips along the way. Do you think that this withdrawal from Syria is premature and it could possibly lead to like instability and like the region being taken over by bad groups? Who cares? Who cares? Yeah, who cares? I mean, it's actually one thing I don't criticize Barack Obama about, or I should say I do and I don't. I do criticize him about troops surging Afghanistan and spiking casualties from 300 to 2,300. But one thing I really don't criticize him about is pulling out of Iraq. So yeah, I don't see the big deal. I actually give him praise for that. Well, Iraq following Obama's pullout is kind of like what they're talking about. It was after the pullout where ISIS was able to take over and completely, dominate the region throughout all of Iraq and Syria and do horrible things. Don't you think this could lead to like something like that? Once again, who really cares? ISIS. If it's not ISIS, it's the Taliban. If it's not the Taliban, it's going to be somebody else. In that region of the world, it's always going to be somebody else. Like I remember in 2014 when like ISIS became all big time, people were asking me, like for the first time in years, people were asking me about that country. They were saying things like, man, you spent a lot of time in that country. You feel all sad about what's going on there. I was like, hell no. I always knew that those worthless people and that worthless country wasn't going to ever amount to anything. And that's the truth. It's that place, that region of the world has been a war-torn, genocidal madhouse for like 2,000 years. Anybody who thinks the United States is just going to wave a magic wand and everything's going to be a-okay for wave a magic wand for half a dozen years, everything's going to be fine then is insane. We can stay there for 20 years or 100 years. It really won't matter. At the end of the day, like I said, that whole region of the world has been a war-torn, genocidal madhouse for 2,000 years. I almost guarantee you it will be a genocidal, war-torn madhouse for the next 2,000 years. So, yeah, I don't really see why I stay in there. Well, a lot of the criticism, though, is coming from it's coming from people who were diehard Trump supporters, and they say that just a couple thousand like boots on the ground, we could stop a lot of this. We could have stopped the whole thing that happened with ISIS in Syria and Iraq, and we can stop the next future thing that's going to happen, and it won't take that many casualties or boots on the ground. So do you think that's true? Yeah, and I think a lot of people just they're perfectly fine with getting other people's kids killed. As far as just staying in there and with a small force and creating stability, well, where do we draw the line? I mean, there's we've been there for like however many years. Do we stay there for 20 years? Do we stay there for maybe 30 years, maybe 50 years? I mean, where do we draw the line? We kind of have to draw the line eventually, and eventually, yeah. So, and I think it kind of comes down to what I first said. I think a lot of people are a little bit too willing to get other people's kids killed. If a war is not so important that you won't send your own kids, I don't think that you should be sending other people's, and I don't think that any big-time politician would send their kids off to these stupid wars. So yeah, might as well just withdraw now, and like I said, who cares if it falls apart? Okay, well we're gonna show you a couple more clips and then end it with a few more questions.
Withdrawal of this small American force in Syria would be a huge Obama-like mistake. Is the fear that leaving ISIS in the region where the United States troops are would allow those remaining forces to really gain ground and mount an insurgency.
Decision to withdraw an American presence in Syria is a colossal, in my mind, mistake.
The repercussions that lawmakers are worried about is the relationship with the Kurds, the forces that are in Syria right now, about 2,000 of them working with the Kurds in that fight against ISIS here. Because if the U.S. backs out, who's in control of Syria? It is Iran and Russia working.
Okay, first is General Mattis. Do you think that a lot of people say this has contributed to him quitting? Do you think that's a bad thing? A dime a dozen. I mean, I like General Mattis, but I think Secretary of Defense is, I mean, they come a dime a dozen. So, and he's right. I mean, Trump can just get another one, another former general whose beliefs more align with his agenda. So, yeah, I don't think it's I mean, like I said, I like General Mattis, but to think that he's like the end all be all, who cares? Just get another one. Do you think we could lose allies in the region because of this? I mean, will we lose allies in that region if you can even say we have any? I mean, outside of Israel, I don't think you can say that we have any true allies, or at least no allies that won't stab us in the back at a given chance. I mean, look at the last 20 years, last couple of decades, we've been in conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan. Well, go back to the 80s, and we were funding Iraq and Afghanistan. I'm sure that a lot of the so-called allies that we have now will probably be our enemies in 20, 30 years, and some of our so-called enemies will probably be funding. So will we lose allies? If you want to call I kind of get tired of everybody crying about the Kurds in Iraq. Are they our allies? I mean, if you want to call them our allies, I guess we'll lose them, but I don't think we'll lose out too much. So, do you think that possibly adversaries like Russia could possibly fill like some of
Russia?
The power?
I get to Russia. I get so tired of hearing about Russia, like how they're like they're still this superpower. Russia is a glorified third world country. If they're going to take some of the power grab in Syria, let them. What is it going to do to us? I mean, I don't get it. Okay, well, I think the United States has a little bit more of an obligation to just abandon everybody like Jameson thinks. But anyway, thank you for tuning into our channel, Self-Conflicted. Thank you. Bye.